You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
This is good shit.
You just popped in the new Kanye West Get Right for the Summer workout master plan. Today I thought about chilling on juice. And I love myself way more than I love juice. And today I seriously thought about chilling on juice. Breathe in, seek how. That's the last Kanye pun, I promise. Because this is not a time for jokes. This is not a time for levity. While it may be purely some of the most undoubtedly American, uniquely entertaining bit of content, of course referring to Alex Jones's show InfoWars, that recently had guest Alex Jones, Kanye West, and Nick Fuentes. Now, Kanye West, what we're watching, it's funny. Absolutely. It's hilarious, it's entertaining, but it's wrong. It's really bad. It's rubbernecking like you can't believe. We are watching a train wreck, only this train is carrying people who have had it with fucking trains. You know what I'm saying? It's funny, but it's not at the same time. It's entering just bad territory. And also, at the same time, while it's fucking crazy, it's bad, it's wrong, it's dangerous type of thinking, Nick Fuentes can fuck himself. He doesn't have mental health to blame. But what we're watching, and I still truly think, is a guy, Kanye West, who professionally, as an artist, as a person, expresses himself primarily in the form of artistic collage. Beats, what he became famous for originally as a producer, would be his style of sampling, would be finding things that were sounding good to him or bits and pieces of something that were appealing and combining them with other bits and pieces of things into a unique piece of art of its own creation of value. He's a guy who puts things together. The way he operates and the way he expresses himself artistically is through grabbing these concepts, combining them all into this thing that people didn't realize they already wanted. He is a genius in some levels, but it's kind of hard to keep saying that when you say, I love Hitler. You know what I mean? I love Hitler is one of the few phrases that makes me just, stop and take a step back. And that includes, even if, your mom said it, I would still be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Go on. No, it's not good. And the whole argument, Hitler had a few good ideas. Where has this come from? Why the fuck can't we get over the Nazis, man? We beat them. They were bad. Why do we let them remain living rent-free in our head collectively? I don't get it. Could it be maybe the curriculum of every school in this country requiring for at least 3 grades that kids read every bit of Holocaust material there is? I would be okay if no one ever read the book Night again. I still think Elie Wiesel could have stopped and maybe asked his dad if he was okay and not just be excited to write a book later. Wow, that was wrong of me to say. But at least I'm aware enough to say that, and, I'm pushing a button, I'm saying a joke, I don't mean what I'm saying. And I think that's what Kanye's doing, because part of the reason he literally has a mental illness that makes you do that. I think at his core, in my gut, I still don't think he's really a Nazi. And anyone who thinks he's literally a Nazi, before I unpack Kanye's Nazism, he's not literally a Nazi. You know why? I have one reason to counter anyone who's saying Nazis are literally still operating in America. The proof of that is Kanye West. The proof of that is African-American, bipolar, mentally unstable, controversial rapper and fashion artist, Kanye West. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break any hearts here, but the Nazi party that you have in your head probably wouldn't have been a fan. I don't want to say guarantee, that's a strong word, but what I'm pretty sure of is that the Nazis would not have liked Kanye West. I'm pretty sure he would have been thrown to Treblinka. Auschwitz wouldn't have been good enough. He's not a literal Nazi. He's a man with literally bipolar disorder. That's something that's literally true. Learn what literally means. And that's why I think in my core, he's not really a Nazi. I think it's more likely he's a guy who just went through a divorce, who's separated from his family, who has been surrounded for the last 20 years with yes men, an unlimited amount of funds, and has never had anyone tell him an idea he has had recently is a bad one. I think that is a toxic combination when you combine a mentally unstable person off medication, hanging out with a Mexican white nationalist who's 20 years old and lives with his mom, now popping up on Alex Jones's InfoWars, carrying a fly swatter, referring it as Benjamin Netanyahu, former prime minister of Israel, wearing a ski mask, never showing his face, reading from the Bible, and saying he loves Hitler. Do you think this is a man with a strategic plan? Is he a literal Nazi? Is he, coordinating mass book burnings? Is he overthrowing parliamentary houses? Is he having his own night of broken glass? I don't think he is. I think it's more likely he's a sick person who's gone through some traumatic shit and has been in Hollywood so long, has been so swept up in just materialism and false pursuits that, combined with also his intellect, which is gifted in many regards, combined that with his mental illness, combined that with his family leaving him, and then this is what will happen. He's a guy who takes from different fields, different ideas, different concepts. He samples music from all across, the eras to make a unique beat that's cool. He does the same thing with ideas. He talks to Candace Owens. He talks to Nick Fuentes. He takes these bits and pieces of these radical things that I think he thinks he can just cherry pick from and put together like a beat and be this pseudo leader of thought. He's not. He's an unstable man. If what we're watching with Kanye West is not a hallmark episode of delusions of grandeur, if he's not a guy who has historically said things like, I already told you who I thought I was, I am a god, if these are not examples of someone literally suffering bouts of a mental illness that we know about and he has been prescribed for and hospitalized for as well, it just makes me a little sad because dude doesn't have friends left. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say anymore. It just feels like he's being exploited. He obviously is. The easiest solution, if you don't want to hear what Kanye's saying or thinking about currently, stop interviewing him. If what he has to say offends you so much, stop having people ask him to say things. That's step one. But what I see when he keeps showing up is the fact that he doesn't have friends anymore. He doesn't have people within his life on a day-to-day basis who are close enough with him to say, what the fuck are you doing? And enough for him to hear that. He has no friends left. It's sad. He has no family left. It's sad. His only friend, his only person he can go through life with, at least right now, looks like his close, dear friend, 20-year-old Mexican white nationalist who lives in the basement of his mother's house, literally, Nick Fuentes. Who, by the way, fuck him, he's crazy, and also looks like a straight-up dork. Because now that he's hanging with Kanye West, you can see he's trying to, emulate some drip, and it's not working. Partly it's not working because you're also sitting there like a smug bitch co-signing all the Nazi stuff Kanye's saying. You don't even have the excuse of being mentally unwell. You're just literally a smug prick who needs clicks on YouTube, so much so you're willing to co-sign on things like I love Hitler. You're willing to say Alex Jones is controlled opposition. Because, after Alex Jones had the epic show with Nick and Kanye, he later went on the other program. He was on Steven Crowder's show. That's it. And he was just basically saying, I don't like Hitler. Fuck Hitler. I don't like Hitler. Things that normal people say. And he was basically distancing himself from the things that crazy people say, including I love Hitler. And then Nick Fuentes, who's in his mom's basement, is like, Alex Jones is controlled opposition. And what the fuck are you talking? Man, you don't believe what you're saying. Just admit you're on for the ride. You're here for the ride. You are enjoying the ride. You have no real understanding as to why Kanye West, cultural icon, also in his 40s, wants to hang out with me. Besides, my YouTube channel has apparently struck a chord in him. Is that not an indication Kanye doesn't have better things to do and his life's not in great shape right now? That he's just sitting on YouTube, so much so that he's decided to become best friends with Nick Fuentes, who again can go fuck himself, and whose mother can please continue writing letters to the show. It's just fucking sad. We are in an alternate reality where Kanye West's only friend is a kid who lives in his mom's basement. And he's popping up on InfoWars, and Alex Jones looks like the reasonable one. Kanye West has fallen so far off the crazy cliff that he's going on Alex Jones's show, and Alex Jones is trying to talk some sense into him. Be reasonable. This is upside down land, but it's also just sad. I hope it stops because this story does not end. It does not end entertaining. For something to be this entertaining, there is also an element of tragedy underneath it. There is an undercurrent of, this just can't end well. If you've seen the movie Uncut Gems, it's very similar. The movie was great for a lot of reasons. I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies in a while. But it was great because at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, when Adam Sandler gets his head blown off, you don't see it coming. Somehow, you sit through this entire movie where a guy who has a disease known as gambling addiction. It's a disease. It's a real thing. Call 1-800. It's a real disease. I'm not going to debate that. It's just as real as a mental illness we know about called bipolar disorder. Now, in Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler continues to make a series of bets that you just know as the viewer, this will not end correctly. This will not end well. But what the movie does so phenomenally is capture what I imagine is the feeling a gambling addict has, where there is still just a chance that it will work out for me. And as the viewer watching the movie the whole time, you keep thinking, for some reason, I also feel like this will work out for him. Everything I've watched in this movie so far is proof that it will not. There are consequences, but for some reason, you get sucked in, you're along for the ride, and you feel like you're part of in the headspace that is the addictive, compulsive thing in the movie. And then, of course, the movie ends with Adam Sandler getting shot in the head because you can't continue to make bets, lose, and owe the mob. That's just not something that is allowed. But it was still surprising. We watched the movie for 2 hours where the guy kept losing money and owed it to people that murder people, and we were still surprised he was murdered at the end. That was impressive. And to relate it to Kanye West, he has entered the stakes of so entertaining. We know what we are watching can't get any better than this. Do you know why it can't get any more entertaining than Kanye West hanging out with Nick Fuentes on Alex Jones's show, reading from the Bible, carrying a fly swatter, referring it as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, and telling Alex Jones, I love Jesus and Hitler? The reason nothing will ever be more entertaining than that, oh, by the way, Alex Jones put on a lizard mask for some reason during the program and still was the most sane and reasonable person there. The only reason something like that will never, ever happen again, the reason that is the peak level of entertainment, apart from how you feel politically, just pure, unfiltered entertainment value, nothing will peak that because we know the stakes are so high that it must come with a tragedy. This will not end well. Nothing is this good. We've passed a point of no return. We're tricked. For some reason, we feel like this can still end well. He can come back with an album. All will be forgiven. But we've entered a point where he said, I love Hitler. Guys, this doesn't end well. He brought up the Medici family. He showed up in a ski mask. These are things that you kind of maybe get you fucking killed. Or if that doesn't happen, you're already so mentally unwell that these are the things that make people do things that they cannot take back, that make people show up to birthday parties they weren't invited to with shotguns, the things that make people hurt themselves. I don't want that to happen. But I truly, honestly, and really don't see how it doesn't end that way. And it is a damn shame there's no friends left to say, man, what the fuck is you doing? It has gotten so bad and the world has gotten so lonely for Kanye that the only thing he feels like he has left to do for attention and for people to fucking talk and interact with him because his family's gone is to say, I love Hitler and hang out with a kid who lives in his mom's basement. Speaking of severely mentally unwell public figures, Georgia Bulldog Herschel Walker lost the runoff election in Georgia. Thank goodness. Man was, to quote Dave Chappelle, observably stupid. And not just observably stupid, he lost only by like a margin of 2% or less. I think it was like 51 to like 49. You get the math. It was very close. It was far too close for one of the candidates, Herschel Walker, that is, to have been diagnosed with multiple personality disorder. In addition to paying for abortions he claimed he didn't and sending get-well cards with cash in them, in addition to claiming climate change is a machine in China that can be turned on or off, I know this because Donald Trump tells me, in addition to all of those wonderful things, in addition to slurring his speech somehow more than Joe Biden, in addition to all of those, he also had multiple personality disorder. Have you seen the movie Split? That was an example of that. Multiple personality disorder is like organized schizophrenia. It's like having schizophrenia as maybe 4 or 5 times, all with their distinct set of lives going on in your head. On top of that, he's a phenomenal athlete whose brain is clearly not much different than an omelet. And he was 2 percentage points away from being an elected member of the government. Oh, my goodness gracious. Georgia is a very strange place, but Georgia, I'm going to need you to do better than that. It is not something I like to see. That the choice was so close for the proud Georgians, for the Bulldogs of Georgia. It was such a tough decision between a guy who, in his mind, has 4 or 5 different personalities, used to be a super athlete, is talking about climate change as a Chinese weapon machine. These are also the signs of someone on the edge of a crazy cliff that has gotten so entertaining. It is. It's truly entertaining to watch Herschel Walker speak, but you gotta know that deep down, the cost of this entertainment is simply a undercurrent of tragedy. It can't end well. If something's this good, it has to be a little bad. There is a yin and a yang. And it's not yin and yang, you uncultured swine. According to my extensive knowledge of Taoism, it's yin and yang. There has to be a little bad if it's gonna be this good. That seems to be a theme. That seems to be what it is. And of course, most people don't think it be like it is, but it do. And I would also just like to say, I still don't give a fuck about Avatar. Avatar 2 can suck my dick, and I'm sure it will suck. Don't go see it. It can't be that great. It's just not that good. This part is not related to anything that I've talked about up until now, and anything I will talk about after this point. But I would just like to interrupt this program to say, I will not see Avatar 2, and I highly encourage you to do the same. All right. Thank you. Fuck James Cameron and his entire artistic oeuvre, which is, of course, just for theme parks to be built in Florida. Also, Donald Trump called for the Constitution to be thrown away. And I'm also not great at segues, so deal with that. So former President Donald Trump, who's under investigation for a whole bunch of shit, who's announced he's running again for president, has now decided that we should just throw out the Constitution. He's running for president and also said we should throw out the Constitution. I'll say it again, I guess. He's running for president again, and he said we should throw out the Constitution. If you're still willing to cast a ballot for this guy, if you're still willing to remember to get off of work at the Sunoco gas station you are gainfully employed at so you can go punch your ballot for Donnie T, why? Still why? Just explain to me what you love about him, because it has absolutely nothing to do with what you think his beliefs are. His beliefs are simply none. He is the embodiment of opportunism disguised as something flashy that is inherently from the dollar store. Explain to me, anyone out there, and some of your moms who I communicate with via written correspondence mostly, and a few tit pics here and there, some of those lovely women are pro-Trump people. I don't judge them, but explain to me what you still like about Donald Trump. If you're someone who wants to vote for him again, can you just explain why? Can you articulate that? Are you capable of that? Of course, if you're not in prison for going to one of his rallies that were either attempts to overthrow the government or just ended in violence generally. Can you explain to me what you love about the guy? Because it has nothing to do about his beliefs. You just like the man. Which then leads me to my next question. What do you like about him? Which would lead me to my next question. What did your parents do to you that has left you with such a void in your heart that you get a thrill out of a guy doing this shit? Spare me he's the only Republican option because the left has gone so crazy. No shit, of course, that's going to happen. But now, thankfully, God willing, inshallah, we now have at least DeSantis probably, who's just another option, who's a conservative option, who's just a guy from the red team, who's not at least fucking insane, calling for the Constitution to be thrown out. Can you think about what that is such a mind-bogglingly insane proposal. If someone were to tell you from a different country, has your president or the people running for president, have any of them proposed completely dismantling the government and then installing me? Actually, a lot of countries probably have. Probably a lot in South America, probably a lot in East Europe. And you know what all of those countries have in common? They were all fucking terrible. They were not good places to live. These were places where people ate bullet soup or prayed the cartel wouldn't take their oldest kid. These are not the countries you would like to emulate elections that saw authoritarian figures come to power. These were not places you want to be. You didn't want to live in Cuba. You didn't want to live in East Germany. You didn't want to live in Venezuela or Russia. These are not places you wanted to particularly set up shop and raise a family. So again, I would ask anyone who's listening to this working in a Sunoco right now, anyone who gets most of their household essentials from a Dollar General, anyone who's on Facebook way too much and still watches Dance Moms, anyone who likes and retweets QAnon stuff at all, anyone who's on Truth Social, Gab, or, I don't know, listens to Gavin McInnes still or something. Who fucking knows? Anyone who's still willing to vote for Trump again, explain to me why you think it's a good idea for a guy who wants the Constitution to be thrown out to have power again. I can't wrap my head around it. It's entertaining because it's just like the whole appeal of the Trump thing is like, I didn't think another level of crazy could be reached, but yet here we are. And if that wasn't crazy enough for you, he also had dinner with Kanye and Nick Fuentes. And that was like, man, fucking bring Roseanne back. Man, if Roseanne had her show back, we'd be fine. This all started when they made The Conners. I think all of this could be traced to the moment Roseanne lost her show and the country was doomed forever. That's really what I'm going to blame for right here and right now. Oh, say, can you see? You know, that's a shout out to Roseanne singing the national anthem terribly. I honestly think Roseanne should have replaced Whoopi Goldberg on The View. We have a conservative who's pro-Israel, and Whoopi gets a timeout because Whoopi said some kind things about Nazis. This is enough of this digression. Let's talk about why Donald Trump wanted the Constitution thrown out. So the Twitter files, Twittergate, the latest and greatest bit of news coming out of Twitter, again, which if it freaks you out too much and causes too much anxiety for you, stop following it. Delete Twitter. Done. Solved. Check. So the latest bit of Twitter controversy is the Twitter files, where this series of investigative tweets, I guess, released by Matt Taibbi, who's a reputable journalist, and basically it was an investigation internally into why Twitter would censor, silence, ban, and do everything within their power to obfuscate any stories related to the Hunter Biden laptop. Of course, the Hunter Biden laptop is the laptop belonging to Hunter Biden, which of course contained ample videos of him doing crack cocaine, asking hookers how much baggies weigh to make sure no one skimmed from him. No one skims crack cocaine from the president's son, which is insane, for one. Like, why record any of that? You only have those videos exist because you want to get caught, and on some level blame your father for everything wrong in your life. But that's enough of my Freudian prognosis as to what's wrong with the crackhead painter. But on that laptop, we only know about the crack videos. There could be a whole bunch of other shit, like his dealings in the Ukraine with Burisma, the oil company that really needed a painter to work for them. Probably not anything to do with currying favor, much more about the fact he has become an acrylic artist. So that laptop was a story that Twitter took it upon themselves, also because they were asked by Biden and everyone involved in the orbit of his campaign, to censor that story, to stop the proliferation, thank you to no one, of that story on Twitter. So much so that anyone who even tweeted the story, tweeted a link to it, banned, taken down, shadow banned, the whole 9 yards. And it had gotten And here's the thing. Twitter is a private company. As much as everyone says it's a Times Square, and it might actually be, and the laws haven't been adjusted accordingly, but as of right now, the way Twitter legally operates and how it operated at the time is it's a private company with its own guidelines and rules, and you agree to them when you make a Twitter account. And they could say, this violated our rules, and they have every right to do whatever they want then because it's their rules, it's their house, it's their rules. However, it became increasingly difficult to even explain, for the best of lawyers, what actually was the issue. I mean, Johnny Cochran and the patriarch of the Kardashian family would have been unable to successfully convince a jury that the existence of this laptop, which not all of its contents, but some of its contents have already circulated the internet at this time, the videos of Hunter doing crack, exist. It would be very difficult for even the best lawyers to argue that there was any guideline infractions committed by the mere existence of this Hunter Biden story. And of course, the Biden campaign is going to push the whole it's Russian disinformation shit. That's the playbook of the Democratic Party. If any news comes out they don't like, it just was Russia. It's that simple, bozo. You think we did something wrong? You got it twisted. I'll explain why Putin actually did this. I'll explain why the evil bad guy a million miles away somehow figured out how to make Hunter Biden look like he smoked crack on his own laptop. It was actually Russia. WikiLeaks, that's Russia entirely. But we still want Julian Assange, even though all of this is made up and it's Russian. By the way, Edward Snowden got full Russian citizenship the other day. Just pointing that out. That crane-necked land bird. Just saying. So, Matt Taibbi, the journalist, explains how internal documents revealed that all of the people high up at Twitter, that girl named Vagina who went on Joe Rogan with Jack, they were really saying we got to stop this story. It's not good. Now, why they were doing that, who knows? They probably thought they were doing what's best. That's what most people think. That's literally what Hitler probably thought as well. However, sometimes you're just not doing it. So, this story comes out, and it's not really anything you didn't know already. Was anyone truly surprised? Was anyone... The ground that some of you stand on currently, was any of it shaking when you found out the Biden campaign called Twitter and said, hey, could you do us a favor? That doesn't rock my world. Not nearly in the same way your mom does each and every time I ask, and sometimes I don't even ask. That's not groundbreaking, earth-shattering news. It's fine. It kind of just confirms what everyone already knew is true. You know what I'm saying? It's not a huge deal. But it was enough for Donald Trump, who has announced he's running for president again, to say, do you see what Twitter's doing? This is so bad, we should throw out the Constitution. Because Twitter doesn't like conservatives, so you see what they did, Hunter's laptop, and let's just throw out the whole Constitution. Let's throw out any framework that prevents me from really taking the gloves off and going insane. Because Twitter, you see what Twitter did? You see what Twitter did over here? He's running for president again, and he's like, look what Twitter did, that's bad. Let's throw out the entire framework for the government. And there's people pumping your gas, voting for him. Kanye West is losing his mind, and his only friend is a sad little Mexican white nationalist who lives in his mom's basement. He's talking to Alex Jones, who's trying to talk some sense into him. Herschel Walker lost by 2 points. A man who said climate change was a machine in China that could be turned on and off. I know this because future Führer Donald Trump tells me this. Now you're gonna hear the bulldog bite. I'm insane and there's 8 personalities in my brain. I hate to be the bearer of bad news all the time. I really do. But just a subtle reminder, I'm not gonna be the skies falling guy this instance. But I just would like to remind everyone, no matter how if something is so entertaining, if something is wildly good, it's just like, man, this shit is the shit. I want more of this shit. Sign me up. It has to come with a price. There is an undercurrent of tragedy. If something is so entertaining, it can't be that great for you. I'm sure that's the sales pitch for heroin. I'm sure heroin's great, but then you die. You know what I mean? So don't do it. I'm sure it's kind of cool to have these controversial button-pushing ideas and talking points at dinner parties, but don't go on national shows and say you love Hitler and carrying a Bible, carrying a fly swatter, calling it the Prime Minister of Israel. If something's too good to be true, it probably is.